I mean, there's a side of this story that I'm sure you've never heard before. No one's heard it before.
But if you want to know the details about how the church fire started, I'll try to give you the abridged version.
It was, everything was brown, crispy. It was apocalyptic.
In the distance, behind the church, you could see acres of the field on fire.
He craved chaos, really, more than anything.
Who was it that threw that peach to the ground? I mean, possession without penetration is just masturbation.
Sometimes, even unconsciously, the slightest spark can cause a catastrophe.
By this point, fire had spread to the church.
Figure out, who we can get in touch with, with cops, fire department, whatever, to put this fire out.
We went over to the closest neighbor's house, which was gonna be going up in flames.
In order to fully understand the church fire, I think it's important to know about Anthony's penchant for peaches and porno for Pyros.
Reminded me of like the Spanish Inquisition, all over again. It was that bad.
So Mr. Masucci says, go to the room, right now. Get 2 belts.
My name is Tyne Keever, and I have been a resident of Delran for over 60 years now. I joined the Delran Fire Department in 1976. I had left college my sophomore year to try out for the Olympic team for the 76 games in Montreal. See, in college I had gotten really big into ping-pong, table tennis. So I didn't want to do anything else. I was totally obsessed with it. Imagine a guy like me, obsessed with ping pong, but I was. It was all I could think about. So I went up to Montreal, tried out for the US team, didn't make it. Went back to Delran, joined the department.
And the big story on Action News tonight is breaking news in Burlington County, New Jersey.
And some years later, I was named fire chief. That was 1992, up until the year 2000.
Here's how it went down. The church fire. You want to talk about this now? The church fire? Where do we begin?
So the story I heard was that morning after leaving the sleepover, Matt and Anthony went and walked around the town of Delran.
And on a day utterly lacking in supervision for a couple of 8th graders who had just recently watched The Breakfast Club, trouble was bound to find them.
I was getting hungry and I said, why don't we, take a walk? Do you mind if I grab a peach? And I grabbed a peach and a paper towel because the way I eat a peach, I love them juicy. And, I always, like Yvonne Boyle, Kevin's mom, taught me, eat it over the sink. But you don't have a sink when you're hanging out with your friends all the time. So we were in the field, there was no sink. And so I grabbed a paper towel like a good boy.
I had just gotten back from vacation with my family down the shore, where I had purchased at the promenade a novelty lighter. It was a cell phone. It was an old flip phone where the antenna was the light.
And Matt had these easements into different fields and such, and we walked on down to Holy Name.
You had to cross through the Holy Name Church field. It was just a shortcut to get there. We got to about the middle of the field.
and had this idea that he was going to set a peach on fire.
Genius idea, to light the peach on fire. He wrapped the peach, the core of the peach, what was left, in the paper towel. I handed him the lighter. He lit the paper on fire.
As is the case with fire, it gets pretty hot and burns, so Anthony threw the peach.
He lit it on fire and threw it to Matt. Matt dropped it, and before you know it, the whole place was ablaze.
It was unbeknownst to him that that whole field was a bit of a tinderbox because it was engulfed.
You got to remember, this is during one of the worst droughts in history.
The heat wave was bad, but really it was the drought that was worse. I think it was the worst on record. They had to bail out all the farmers, couldn't fill up a pool or water a lawn the entire summer.
And all that was around us was brown, dead grass that went up in flames faster than anything I've ever seen before.
Well, Holy Name Church is essentially the center of our community, so of course my first concern is that the church itself is completely up in flames.
You know, next thing you know, there's just this fire, and you know, you go to put a little bit of it out, but it's because it's a drought, the August drought. Put your foot down, flames are spreading beyond that.
Matt and Anthony tried to stomp it out, but were unable to. I think they were wearing shorts, so didn't really have a lot of success doing that. They might have burned their legs a little bit or charred their legs.
Before we could stomp on that peach, on that patch of grass that was on fire, it had spread to the field around it. And then it started to go up into the trees and the woods around it.
Flames were climbing up the trees, heavy limbs on the trees falling, and they were falling adjacent to the property, and certainly could have harmed civilians easily.
Pretty soon it got pretty out of hand, and it was creeping toward both the church on one end and the woods on the other end.
And this was the part that separated the homes from the church field.
Now again, I don't really want to focus too much on that and the specifics around that. What I want to talk about is what happened after that, because after that, we sprung into action. Or Anthony sprung into action. I will admit I was a bit paralyzed by fear.
I said, hey, let's go grab a hose and we'll try to, from a house beyond the woods, and we'll go and try to spray whatever we can. So
we went over to the closest neighbor's house, which was gonna be going up in flames. I do remember this. Anthony grabbed the hose and he ran it to the direction of the fire, but the hose wasn't long enough. And he could squirt it, but it wasn't gonna reach the flames. It wasn't gonna do anything.
I ran, grabbed the hose, and I ran as far as I could, but it wouldn't quite reach.
Anthony had to go and knock on that neighbor's house and say that we need to call 911. The woman obviously was confused.
Quick thinking, they tried to put it out. While they couldn't, they went to some neighbor's house, and she had no idea why these two young whippersnappers were knocking on her door, screaming bloody murder.
Knock on a door. An old woman comes to the door. This was a summer weekday, so thank God, some retired woman was home. And she's on the phone, and I said, lady, there's a fire going on very close to your house. We tried to use your hose. It wouldn't work. It was too far away. Can we use your phone? And she's like, oh, Gladys, I got these boys here, I think they want to sell me something. I said, lady, I don't want to sell you anything. She goes on and on. We're friends. And I mean, I didn't want to say this, but I said, lady, give me the goddamn phone right now. And I grabbed it and I hung up. I said, I'm sorry. And I hung up and I dialed 911 and I said, fire department, you got to get a truck and engine out here right away. There's been a fire. We need your help.
I wasn't supposed to be working that day. We were actually going to start our first day of vacation. We were headed down to Colonial Williamsburg. We go every year. And Mrs. loves to make her own butter.
It doesn't look hard, but it actually takes a lot of arm work to push that stick up and down.
So we were packing the car up. And that's when I got the call. And they said, Chief, you better get down here. Okay, I break the bad news to my wife and headed down.
I turn around and I go out front, and Matt is just with his head in his hands on the curb, just completely indecisive, and just can't believe what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to.
He just sat down, blank stare on his face, watching the blaze sweep across the field. Now, I don't know if he was shell-shocked or if he was getting some sort of sick pleasure from watching it all burn.
And I thought that my future had just gone up in the same flames that the church almost did.
I'll never forget that boy's moon face glowing in the fire. Flames were twinkling in his eyes. It never sat right with me.
I said, let's go try to put this fire out. Come on. So I run into the field, with or without him. I run into the woods, and I start trying to stomp on every little piece of the fire that I can, trying to put it out so that it doesn't spread to these homes. I don't want anyone to get hurt. And, I had put out a good portion.
One of my boys tells me on the radio, the woods are all on fire, and there's a kid in there stomping out the flames. Are you seeing this? And I remember saying out loud, well, that kid is either brave or stupid, but you gotta admire the effort.
When one of the firemen that had arrived at that point said, hey kid, get the hell out of there. It's a hot fire inferno. Get the hell out of here.
As luck would have it, a group of skater punks were cruising on by on their skateboards and came to our rescue. They came in with their boards, and they came in with their Jinko jeans, and they started banging. They took their boards and they started banging the fire out with their boards.
Now they're beating out the fire and trying to, with their skateboards, and helping to prevent the fire from spreading.
Until the fire department came and actually put it out.
That's kind of what happened. Matt and I decide to walk back, and we realize, both of us are dirty from soot. I've got some burns on my legs, and we decide, let's go back to Matt's house and get cleaned up a little bit and see if we can take care of my wounds. We get a knock on the door, and it was the fire inspector, Detective Vaughn Briggs.
Detective Briggs had discovered that Anthony and his friend Matthew had gone back to Matthew's home. He arrived there and questioned them, and as it turns out, that brave kid turned out to be my nephew, Anthony.
Wait a second. Your uncle's the fire chief?
Yeah. He's the fire chief. Tyne Keever, my Uncle Tyne, is the fire chief, and I'm proud of my Uncle Tyne. And he said, well, you did the right thing.
Not a minute too soon, I would add, because I shudder to think what would have happened had he not called the fire department when he did that day.
No, I get it. Everybody wants to talk about the church fire. The church fire, the church fire. Everybody wants to talk about it. But what they don't want to talk about is the level of heroics that Anthony and I went through to put the church fire out. Yes. Did we start it? Yes. We started the church fire.
Are Matt and Anthony heroes for putting out the fire that they started? No, I wouldn't say that they're heroes. No.
The crazy thing is that it's a mainstay in Delran Holy Name Church gets lit on fire, and you don't hear anything about it in the newspapers.
Sure, crisis was averted, and the fire did not burn the church down completely.
The fact that it didn't get publicized is a little bit fishy.
Because the fire inspector, Detective Vaughn Briggs, had said we weren't going to be held liable for anything, and that we were heroes for calling the fire department, I felt like I was home free.
How many people in town do you think can light a church on fire and not have anything written about it in the papers?
Hell yeah, we covered it up. You think I wanted it to get out? That some kids almost burnt down the church that almost half the town goes to? Not a chance. I was up for re-election in the fall. No way, Buster.
It's a story long buried, but it's time I tell it. Let me take you back to the summer of 1999. A few days after the fire, old Chief Tyne had his annual luau outside the firehouse. I don't know what got into him, but he was throwing them back. That day, he was going for the record or something. He downed 23 whole Mai Tais. The boys were all there, cheering him on, celebrating their chief. Things had started winding down, and it was early morning at this point. Folks are headed home, but old Tyne, nope. He gets in his truck claiming he's all good to drive, and damn wouldn't you know it, he runs aground on the dang high school football field, smack dab in the end zone. Now picture this. There's old Tyne, fire chief, 23 Mai Tais deep, kicking up a fuss in the middle of Delran High School football field, hooting and hollering and making a whole damn scene. See, Tyne would get like this from time to time after a few drinks. Go on and on about there not being enough palm trees down in Colonial Williamsburg and how the waitresses should be wearing hula skirts. But now, after practically bathing in curacao for the last 8 hours, boy, he might as well been floating out to Bora Bora on a pool needle. And if that wasn't bad enough, right over the other side of the field, the high school cheer squad was trying to work out a new MAMBO No. 5 routine. Just watching this mess unfold like it was some 2-bit dinner theater. Tyne putting on a full show, yes sir, yelling, laughing, crying. That is, before he passes out on the 50-yard line. He looks up at the clouds, and by God, with the heartbreak of a country song, he yells to, I guess, his wife, "Tyna, I'll take you someplace warm. I'll take you where the tropical drinks flow like the Rancocas River." Needless to say, after that fiasco, he wasn't leading in the polls in the upcoming election. And the last thing Fire Chief Tyne Keever needed was a newspaper story getting out about his nephew being involved in some church arson. So, using all his powers and connections, Tyne protected himself and his nephew and had it all brushed under the rug.
Do I think Anthony learned a lesson? Well, you wouldn't exactly say that he was a good boy after that.
Yeah, I think he learned his lesson, and to my knowledge, he has not started a fire of that magnitude since that day.
I'm sure he will try to light a fire again someday. I just hope it's not him trying to teach his son how to be an arsonist.
I don't know if it's going to be another fire, but there's going to come a time when something's going to happen. Something bad. And Masucci's going to be to blame. I just hope that nobody gets hurt.
In this life, I've learned that taking responsibility for one's actions is paramount. That's why I've made it a priority to give back. These days, you can find me volunteering a lot of my time. On weekends, I deliver training courses on safety, namely fire prevention. On the day of the fire, I froze because I didn't know what to do.
You look a lot like that kid that started that fire 20 years ago.
I don't want anybody to have to go through that.
Your smoke and carbon monoxide detector. Very, very important. You take off the back of these.
I don't want these kids to ever find themselves standing in the middle of a highly flammable field with a novelty lighter and not know what to do.
Just don't light it.
It isn't just about prevention.
You're probably never going to really use one of those, so forget that.
It's about empowerment, and that's something I take very seriously.
These days, life's a little slower. I spend most of my time now with the wife or just on the porch, whittling on things, collecting old antique tie irons. But my passion remains table tennis. I still mix it up with the boys down at the club. And let me tell you, it's where I'm happiest.
All right, Todd, Rome wasn't built in a day. They laid bricks every hour. Just keep it going. Easy on that grip now. Don't hold it like it owes you money. Loosen up. It's not the supermarket, Todd. Don't hit it like a fruit cup.
Coaching the up-and-comers. Seeing that star in their eyes. Dreams don't die. And not this one, anyway.
I've spent a lot of time trying to move on. Trying to put the whole ordeal behind me. But here's what I've realized. I shouldn't put it behind me. The ancient Greeks believed fire was stolen from the gods, that it was a crime against nature. But I think they were wrong. Fire is a gift. God gave it to us. And I've made my peace with God, with nature, and with myself. I have a son now. Through him, I've come to understand the life cycle of things more fully. As a father, it's my duty to teach him what I've learned. Not just about fire, but about respect for nature, for life, for things that sustain us. In the end, respect isn't just taught, it's shared, passed down, like the fire we once feared.
How do I take the beep out of my text?
Oh, please stay going.